Welcome to Get Over It, the consciousness transforming podcast for exceptional 21st century living. Today, I am calling all empaths. We're going to have Susan Workley with us, and we're talking about her new book, Confident Empath, a complete guide to multidimensional empathing and energetic protection. And folks, you know, most of the people who listen to this show are empaths, okay? And it's really important that we learn to shield our energy, protect our energy, and most importantly, not take on other people's energy and stuff. And Suzanne does a great job at this. So you're going to love the podcast, and even more, you will love the book. Now, the information shared on Get Over It uses intuitive and pragmatic insight to help you shift your consciousness to break through the blocks and release energy that is no longer needed. Yes, we're going to help you let go of the BS that's holding you back. But you guys know I always ask, are you truly ready to? And by the way, folks, BS is belief system. A bit about me for my new listeners, intuitive since birth. I'm a third generation intuitive with over 3 decades of experience supporting people to break through the blocks along their path. I'm a strategist for personal and professional transformation, revealing cutting edge information that enables you to prosper and thrive. I spent 25 successful years in corporate America as an executive sales professional, and I am the founder of Healing Visions Ministries and the Northern California Children's Education Network, a 501c3 nonprofit. I provide consultations and healings in all areas of life that heal the mind, body, spirit connection, allowing you to live your very best life. Now, my clients tell me that I keep it real while providing them with accurate information to assist them along their journey as a spirit living a human existence. But they also say, if you really don't want to know, don't ask Monique. My background includes a doctorate in metaphysics, Reiki master teacher, ordained minister, and clinical hypnotherapist. So whether you are stressed, depressed, or possessed, I can help. To find out more about me and the services I offer, go to my website. That's MoniqueChapman.com. And I invite you to follow me on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm no longer on Twitter, so don't go there. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe. We would love to see and hear from all of you. My guest today, Suzanne Workley, has been an energy healing practitioner, intuitive, and psychic empath for more than 2 decades. She teaches about consciousness studies and energy work and offers spiritual tours in Peru and Sedona, Arizona. She is the author of an energy healer's book of dying and lives in White Bear Lake, Minnesota. Welcome, Suzanne.
Hi, thank you for having me. Yeah, I love your intro. That was so great about the BS.
Yeah, the BS. But sometimes it is bullshit. Now, don't let that fool you. But
that was perfect. I loved that.
Thank you. Okay, I absolutely love the book, Confident Empath. So many of us are empaths, and it's really affecting us today, even for the people who don't understand that they are empaths, because their energy is shifting so much. So please explain to us in lay terms, what is an empath?
Great. Thank you for asking, because it's a little confusing right now. I have found as just a human, much less a practitioner, that people are tossing that word empath around quite flippantly and owning it without really knowing what it is. So the way that I describe things is our human birthright, our beautiful body is designed from source energy to be empathic. We are designed to feel what other feels. We are designed to walk in another's shoes and have our emotions connect. But that's empathy, and empathing is 2 different things. It's not just walking in someone's shoes. It's actually jumping in their shoes and taking their shoes and stealing those shoes and making those shoes your own. So it is a different vibration of interchanging energy. It's the taking and the stealing of someone's stress or anxiety or pain or emotion or actual physicality. So it's a really distinct difference. And I'm glad these conversations are coming forward so people can actually know the differences now.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about the empath thing, because it seems like you could be an empath, have that energy with everything. In your book, you do talk about the exchange of energy with courting or aura transference. And, I've told my lady clients forever, and a few of the men, that whomever you have ever had sex with is still with you. You take a
Yeah.
snippet of their energy. So talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and thanks for pointing that out too, because it's everywhere. And so when we're empathing, our actual auric field has a container of our own, what we would call consciousness gasoline. It's our fuel, it's our individualized fuel. And this moves in and out of our auric fields and our templates and our bodies in a really organic way, as long as it's loving. But if it is not loving and we're fear based, which most all of us are because of the BS, the belief systems, most of us are leaking this fuel out of our gas tank, and we are actually yearning to find more gasoline, and we merge with all kinds of other things, not even just people, land and spaces and places and collective consciousness sphere, and we are glomming on and interpenetrating each other's fields in very negative ways, because this is the only way, if we're uneducated, that we get more fuel. And it can be very, very detrimental when we are transferring energies in between us, that do not serve us in a love vibration way. But at the beginning, Monique, it feels like, oh, that feels like a great hit of energy. I'm going to worry about you or take care of you or do everything for you so I can feel good about myself. But in the long run, it's a depletion of my field. And so these are really critical things going on every day, all day.
Well, as you were talking, something just came to me. You talk about our connections with things, and we have so much going on today with all these mass shootings and everything. As the date of this recording, it's been like 190 something mass shootings across the United States, and there's not that many days in the year yet. Do people become empathically attached to their guns?
I think what it is the collective consciousness is a programmable field, and we are all in our collective consciousness. When we're in dream state or when we're not present, we fly in and out of that field all the time. We hold it in our heart chakra. But in reality, that's a fourth dimensional field that is completely programmed with a lot of negative energy and a lot of negativity and a lot of tipping points that will then completely trigger people into doing unbelievable things. And we find ourselves drawn to this horrible negativity because that's what's in there. And it's our job to adjust that by putting love into that frequency. But most of us are absolutely triggered and programmed by fear and media. And then one thing builds off of another and it creates more, etc. So empathically connected to the gun through the energy field of fear itself, if you can look at it that way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How do we escape this fear of everything, or the fear of whatever the media is telling you? I know myself, I will watch the news. However, I don't watch the news with the intent on looking at paying attention to the words. I look at the energy of what they're saying. And there is the lie or the truth or whatever. So please address that.
That is a beautiful way, in my opinion, to watch the news. And I do similar things. And I talk to my clients a lot about that. There's many people right now which are choosing not to watch it, which is awesome too. I'm never here to tell anyone how to do their thing. I just suggest, and what resonates for you is what your truth is. And oftentimes I will reprogram that news. I will scan it for the energy. I will look for the program itself. I will start to say that doesn't feel like truth. And I will hold my own firm ground and watch that frequency and say no. So my opinion is that then after that fact, it is important for us, if we choose, to put back into that collective field. I am not going to be drawn into that fear. I am not going to do that. I'm going to replace my own container first with love frequency. No, I'm sovereign. No, I'm free. No, I have choices. No, I have free will. And then exponentially put that into the field so that others, if they choose, can find that frequency. So this is the self-responsibility and then the collective responsibility that I believe the human is designed for.
Well, collective responsibility to me, it's like being a part of a positive part of the world citizenship, taking a great steward for Mother Earth and moving that forward. At least that's my
Yeah.
thoughts on the part.
Yeah, and Mother Earth and Father Sky, because we are a cosmic being as well. We are interplanetarily, collectively connected to everything. And so, yes, we live in a Milky Way system in the universe, but we are also galactically connected to the cosmos, to the interpenetrating energies of the planets and the stars. But yes, first and foremost, our Earth, we are guardians down here. And for us to be disconnected from that realm of earth, wind, water, fire, ether, and plants and animals, this is what distorts our belief system in the first place, which is distorted in our terms of safe and enough. And this is where everything stems from. You are right. The BS, the belief system, is where the book starts out, because the confident empath has stepped back to a neutral and started to really analyze their belief systems and do the deep work to remove the shadow and replace the negativity with positive.
You are right on target there. But how does one get to that point when they're able to release?
Most of all, it's about, first and foremost, understanding that you're a vehicle of source energy that you're responsible for. Most of us will go outside of ourselves for validation, for truths. And when we do that completely opposite, meaning going inside of ourselves and then start the process of what this book is all about, start the process of the container, the auric field. I am responsible for this. I am keeping this safe and individualized. Therefore, on another level, I am collectively working in love. But if I'm not coming first in keeping that discernment process of, geez, is this Suzanne's real truth or not real truth? Does Monique really believe this or not believe this? And then separating all of that by being present every day, all day on some level, then we are susceptible to those leakages and then that programming. So it all starts with you. And this is hard for people because we grow up with that ridiculous notion that everybody else comes first, right?
Yes.
It's a belief system. There's the BS belief system.
Yeah, there's the BS.
Right. So it's a really deep one because the empath is forever putting everybody else first. The true sensitive empath believes everybody has to feel better because indeed it is that particular empathic person who is actually feeling not so great. And they're, by using others' energy, trying to make themselves feel better. It's a very distorted thing that's happening. So I'm glad people are reaching out and learning about it. It's important.
Yeah, the time is now. Now you talk about 3 types of empaths, general, sensitive, and psychic. And you said the sensitive one, which I would consider an out of control healer because they want everything to be right, everybody to be happy.
Yeah.
Is your correlation?
Or an out of control mother, right? Or father, because we are all thinking we're supposed to fix our kids, fix our parents, fix our grandkids, fix the whole world. And so the sensitive empath is usually the one that is desperately trying to figure out their life and they're overscheduled and they're exhausted. General empath just simply means everyone because these human bodies that we walk in are empathing, meaning connecting to energies all day long. But a general one usually runs it through the system. They're not aware. They don't get hit with it like a sensitive. A sensitive goes, oh my gosh, I am really running ragged, but I'm going to keep going because that means I'm fabulous, And so we are very much more aware. And then we step it up a notch or 10 when we become more psychically sensitive, meaning now my senses are really, growing into places and spaces of the unknown and the unseen, because indeed they are here, but that sensitive psychic can tap into, the paranormal field, the actual land energy, anything beyond the veil, etc. And then it gets really big.
Okay, could you talk to us for a moment? You share a wonderful story in your book about being in the hospital. It wasn't wonderful. You were in the hospital and you were sick, but the outcome turned out to be great. But being in the hospital and you were a child, your parents were worried that you wouldn't live because there was something, I guess, wrong with your blood. They hadn't identified the doctors. You overheard them saying certain things about you. Talk to us about that and how you didn't buy into that energy.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that. That's the beginning of my real story. I was only 7 years old and I literally saw what we would now use the word alien heads on my ceiling every night. And I was very comfortable. I assumed everyone saw those, including the siblings I slept in the same bed with, but they didn't. And I didn't know that for a long time. And out of the blue, I was taken down very hard at 7 years old with a blood disease that they never knew what it was. I was literally on death's door for almost a year. And the so-called Western medicine did not know what was happening. They went through everything under the sun and desperately trying to figure it out. They were taking scads of blood out of me on a weekly basis. And at 7, I write in the book that I was already comfortable with and normal in astral projection, meaning my body was sitting in the room and my essence was out in the hallway. And I was hovering over like the nurses in the corner, very sad and upset and scared that this poor little girl was going to die. And I'm like, whoa, wow, some little girl's going to die. That's kind of sad. And then I realized they were discussing me. And I was in physical form in a completely different room. So those kinds of traversing and experiences were really, really normal for me when I was 7. And I literally trusted the heads on my ceiling telepathically telling me that I was fine and I was okay. And we're working on your blood and we're changing things. And this is important for you. And so on and so forth. I had the knowing that this was my truth. And the confusion actually came in the human form. The confusion was witnessing and seeing these nurses and my parents and my family scared and crying and trying to separate their sadness and keep it from me when in essence, my ability was everywhere and anywhere. So it confused me for a very long time. And then the day that the heads told me that they were done, my so-called blood disease disappeared overnight and I was absolutely fine. And to this day, I'm one of those anomalies that's like, what the heck? But for me, it was a very comfortable realm. I lived in that for many years.
Why were you afraid as a child? Because most kids, when they look up to the ceiling, they see aliens, are like, oh,
Yeah. I think this is the essence of being a beautifully interdimensionally connected human. And there was some beings that would come into my room that I was afraid of, though, Monique. There was the so-called bad aliens. I just put that word on it as a child. And I knew their frequency was different. They felt different. And it was an intuitive knowing of hide under the covers from them. And then the other heads would come in and things would energetically, frequency wise change. So again, the body, I think, is so phenomenal because, of course, the alien realm works in telepathy. And I knew everything is a cognitive knowing. But the sensing, the knowing of the human form to say, oh my goodness, this is a fight or flight response. This is not safe. We are all born with that. So whether we have tapped into our telepathy or not, our senses of the actual system of being human is such a gift. And yet we play in our head. We play with our mind. We don't let our body connect with our heart and be led by that. We want validation from truths outside of ourselves instead of going in. And this is the struggle of the empath.
Okay. How do we get to the point of protecting ourselves on a daily basis? And why is it so important to be protected?
Yeah. And protection is a tough word because when I started out being a so-called light worker, I was confused way back when because, the ignorance of my ability back then. Oh, I'm working in love and light. I shouldn't have to protect anything, which now, 20 years later is just the most ignorant concept I could have had. And it's not all about danger, danger, danger. I really want to point out the word protection is actually to hold your fuel, to hold your individual consciousness container filled with your fuel of your own love, light, source energy. And I equate it and teach it in the book as a metaphor of you being a vehicle of source. A vehicle needs gasoline, and our gasoline is our consciousness connection. It's our life force, chi, prana. And that comes into the body via our chakra centers. But more importantly for a vehicle is a really good gas tank, because we can have all the great gas we want, but if that tank is all rusted and torn, it's going to be all over the ground before we leave the station and try to go onto the highway of life. So it's the tank. It's understanding the protection of my tank, meaning my field. And this is what gets ratted and rusted in the empath world because we're constantly not taking care of our tank. So the first thing to do is learning those systems of bubbling and grounding and body scanning. And these are really broken out in depth in the book, especially in the appendixes of the book with the meditations and the processes and the rituals and the tools. I mean, I make it super simple on how to actually accomplish that.
Folks, all you have to do is do the work. And why is it so hard for people, especially now? Everything's in turmoil. You would think that people would I don't know, just let the outside noise go and go within, or learn something to better themselves.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the people that are on track. And again, this isn't a judgment on anyone else. Everyone gets to be where they get to be on their journey. There's no right or wrong. But when personal responsibility comes first and our sovereignty and our freedom becomes number one, because I'm choosing to believe what I choose to believe and I don't have to be led by others, this is when the paradigm shift really deeply happens. And then we actually sit back in a neutral zone when we see the chaos. And it almost gets kind of silly to realize how much programming there is happening outside of ourselves. And it almost gets kind of humorous, and that, not that it's funny that the world seems chaotic and falling apart, but it almost seems funny that we dive right into it on an ongoing basis and believe that, instead of sticking with neutral and going, hey, wait a minute, there's a thought, there's an idea. What does my body want to do with that? What does my true body want to feel with that? And then I make my choice instead of being a trigger reaction.
Well, if we could get rid of those trigger reactions, that would be great. Now, how do we set healthy boundaries so that we're not impacting all over the place?
Well, again, and brilliantly, you started this whole entire thing with it. It's the BS, it's the belief systems, and the courage of the person who is truly walking a spiritual journey goes there first, because we are individualized souls that come into these bodies. And we, for whatever reason, think what we grew up with in terms of beliefs is and has to continue to be our truth. And that is absolutely a non-truth. It is up to us to really dissect those childhood beliefs, those society beliefs, those dogmatic beliefs, and start to tear those apart so that I can then own what is my true parameter of my own truth. And this is where it all starts, because once I know a frequency and resonance of my truth, and I start to trust this by going inward, I no longer choose to go outward for validation, knowledge, and information. And I utilize that difference, those different confusion of energy and frequencies, to hold in neutral and go, which one makes my heart sing? Which one fills me with love? Which one tears me down and makes me fight or flight in fear? And we get really picky and really choosy. And that's when it all changes.
So when we have that change, do we ever revert backwards, or do we stay in that frequency, if you will, and even move that frequency forward?
It's all of it. And that's a great question, because this is something people struggle with, because, oh my gosh, I've done all this work. I did so well. And then I just went backwards and I lost it. And we start to berate ourselves. And it is critical right now for understanding the ascension process. Those people that are saying, oh, my family's in 3D and I'm in 5. That is ridiculous, because every single solitary one of us, no matter how gifted and clean we are vacillating and jumping and flipping and flopping through 3, 4, and 5, 5, 4, and 3, 3, 5, 3, 4. I mean, it is constant, because we are seriously still in a 3D world that steps into 4D at oftentimes dream state, psychic state, meditative state, subconscious state. And then if we get into 5, that's awesome. But there's no way on a continual basis that we stay there 24/7 because of the fluidity of it all. So to not trigger into, oh my gosh, I'm going to revert back, now I've lost it, and do self-defaming or self-defeating, this is the challenge. So it is being able to navigate it all with balance and harmony. Yes, also you can push higher as you go, but again, you will not always 110% lock into something, because we are everywhere. We are omnipresent.
Yeah, and that's a interesting concept to wrap your mind around, especially people who have been brought up in strict religious background, I guess.
Oh yeah, dogma's a hard one right now, right?
Yeah, and I don't, well, I guess on some level I do, but I don't understand why people, and yes, I'm going to pick on the Catholic Church for a moment, folks. There's a lot of trouble with the men who run the Catholic Church being with boys, not even just girls, but boys, doing inappropriate things to them. And if they do that, and you're a member of that church where you're listening to that leader, how can you continue to do that when that's such wrong? I just don't understand.
Well, and I think the beauty of being alive at this point in time is the disclosure process. This energy on this planet which is now really rising in the mother God frequency. That's been what has been out of the Trinity equation. We've had the Father God and the Child God, meaning the thought and the action. But the mother God, the female God frequency of emotion and feel, has been distorted for eons. And this is what's coming back right now. And this is why the empath is so critical. The feel is what will really lead the way. The feel is this is not acceptable any longer. That frequency will not be tolerated. And this is what's coming in hard and strong right now. And it is showing disclosure for things that will not be accepted any longer. And so again, the chaos of all of the breakdown is actually the beginning of the healing.
So healing can begin in chaos.
Totally. Healing is chaos. Chaos is the healing. And again, what we need to understand if we really study this bigger, I just did a really advanced workshop this last weekend for some of my top clients in understanding the holographicness of creational reality. The ascension process is done in certain timelines. We are experiencing it in our timeline as chaos because we're seeing how we got there. But one doesn't understand multidimensionality and timelines. So we can also get freaked out, re-scared, reignited in all of the horror and mess up the timeline again. So what we want to do, if we choose to do this in a healthy way, believe it's done, see what's done, see it the way that you want it to, live as you choose to see it in the way that you want it versus getting tangled up in the chaos and the triggers of how we got there.
Okay. What about soul contracts and the Akashic records? Just had a lady on last week who was an Akashic record teacher, and she spoke to this. And I'd like for you to speak to it from the vantage point of empathy or being.
Yeah, both of my books, my first book, The Energy Healer's Book of Dying, talks extensively also about, that was launched in 2020 and kind of a tough time to launch a book on death, but it's coming back strong now. So that book also makes reference to the Akashic and the soul contracts, because it's important for us to know our loved ones that leave this planet are also leaving when they are contracted to. This is important. For the empath, it's important for us to understand these people that I am worrying about, these people that I want to change, these people that I obsessively am sticking my energy into and taking from, have a soul contract with, first and foremost, their higher self, and then are collectively connected with me. And I get to step out of the way with knowing that their higher self knows exactly what they're doing, instead of my lower version of what I want me and them to be keeps worrying about changing them. For example, if I worry and worry and worry that my loved one is sick and may die, if I understand the soul contract, that their death is aligned, that I am here witnessing with no condition attached, that's different than the empath that's sticking in, oh, I want them to be here. I want them to get better. I want to save them. I want to help them. Because the second one is all fear-based and the first one is love-based. So I teach that very extensively in both books because I think it's a critical knowledge to have within oneself.
Okay. And talk to us a bit about prayer in the language of light.
And this is where the Akashic comes in. So every single body of God consciousness, whether a human body, whether a planetary body, a galactic body, every single being that's a body of God consciousness has what's called their own Akashic record, their own file, their own information. And the way that I view prayer is, I believe that moves the information through the file system or through the books of the libraries so that we can remove the scared, the fear, the abuse, the horror out of these physical vehicles and put it into, with prayer in a different form, into what we call that Akashic record or that God source, so that that information is made available to everything and anything that is then going to be an incoming incarnation. This is how we change our planet. This is how we change our species and we change our karma. We need to get the information out of our bodies so we stay more healthy and happy. And we needed to get it into the hands of source. And I show that in a completely different way in the latter part of the book.
You certainly do. Now, when we go to your website, SWORTHLEY.com, what are we going to find there?
Well, you will find both of my books. So Confident Empath is the new one that just launched. Again, The Energy Healer's Book of Dying is all channeled. It shows how we die in death. I've done death work forever. And this was a beautiful book to show what happens to the body in transition and transmutation. It's really helped a lot of people with grief. So they're both there. I have all kinds of other things. I do a Vibe Tribe monthly membership, which is fascinating, and all the information is on there. This is to keep people connected and educated on a monthly basis. And we do webcasting, we do blogging, we do podcasting ourselves called Energy Unleashed. It's on Facebook and YouTube. I mean, it's almost everything and everywhere. We are in a little bit of a redesign period, but yeah, sworthley.com, just simply my name should get you anything and everything. And if you need to find the book on Amazon, they're both there as well.
Okay, great. I've really enjoyed our time together, and we've come to a close. Could you give us a pearl of wisdom that you would like to share with the audience?
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me. And this book, in my opinion, is designed for every single human in one shape or form that is walking this planet. And you are needed. You are here because you chose to be here. You are the vessel of God's source. And so take the responsibility if you choose and step into your power, because that's what this is about. It's about empowerment.
I chuckle because thank you, but I chuckle because you said if you choose, because I'm always telling my sister, she'll ask advice, and I said, well, do it if you choose and if you see fit. You know? So that just came into my mind.
Me too. It's a mantra, if you choose.
Well, Suzanne, thank you very much for being with me. Again, folks, Suzanne Worthley, the book Confident Empath, a complete guide to multidimensional empathing and energetic protection. You can find it on Amazon, just about everywhere else. You can get it from the website. And take a look at this, because this will definitely help you navigate these turbulent times that we are living in. So, Susan, thank you. The audience, thank you. I truly appreciate everyone's time and attention. And remember, the most important choice that you can make is what you choose to make important. Consider making the masterful choice of discovering your confident impact. Abundant blessings, light, and love to all. Agape.